The sun was setting over Zuba, turning the sky red and gold. The kingdom was large and rich, with strong warriors and happy people. At the center stood the king's palace, shining like gold in the evening light. King Sefu ruled wisely, and for many years the kingdom was at peace. The people lived without fear, the markets were full, and the land gave plenty of food. But deep inside the palace, a dark plan was growing. Someone close to the king wanted to take his place. Waziri Kona was one of the king's most trusted men. He was wise and had served the kingdom for many years. But in his heart, he was not loyal. He wanted more than just serving the king. He wanted to be the king. One evening, he sat in his private room with a few men he trusted. The room was dark, with only a small oil lamp burning. Shadows danced on the walls as they spoke in low voices. "The king trusts me," Kona said. "He has no idea what is coming." A tall man with a scar on his face nodded. "When do we make our move?" Kona smiled. "Soon. First, we must make sure no one stops us." He picked up a small scroll, sealed with red wax. "Take this message to our man in the city. We must be careful. If anyone finds out, we are dead men." The scarred man took the scroll and left. Kona leaned back in his chair, his eyes shining with greed. "Soon, the throne will be mine." Across the city, in the busy market, Tano walked between the stalls. He was the son of a trader, not a warrior or a nobleman, but he had something special. He was clever. Tano had spent his life watching people. He could tell when someone was lying. A small change in their voice, a nervous look, or too much confidence. He saw everything. That evening, as he walked past a spice stall, the air was full of the smell of cinnamon and cloves. The market was noisy with people shouting prices and bargaining. Then he heard something strange. Two men stood near a corner, whispering. Their faces were hidden under dark hoods. "The king still trusts him," one of them said. Tano pretended to look at some dried figs but listened closely. "By the time he realizes, it will be too late," the other man replied. Tano's heart beat faster. Someone was planning something against the king. He slowly moved closer. "The message will reach him by midnight," one of them continued. "Once everything is ready, by morning, the kingdom will have a new ruler." Tano's fingers tightened around the basket. A coup. They were planning to remove the king. Tano knew he had to do something. Tano left the market quickly, his mind racing. If someone was trying to take the throne, who could he trust? The palace was full of guards, and if he told the wrong person, he could be killed. His father always said, "A secret is like fire. It spreads fast and burns everything in its path." Tano needed to be careful. He decided to follow the man with the scroll. He moved quietly through the dark alleys. The man walked fast, looking around as if checking for danger. Then he stopped at a wooden door and knocked twice. Then once more. The door opened a little. A hand took the scroll. No words were spoken. The door closed. Tano's stomach tightened. Who was behind this? That night, Tano sat outside his father's shop, staring at the stars. The streets were quiet now. Then he saw something strange. A shadow moved on the rooftops, jumping from building to building. Tano's heart pounded. Someone was sneaking toward the palace. He had two choices. Forget what he heard and go home. Pretend nothing happened. Follow the shadow and step into danger. Tano took a deep breath. He made his choice. Moving like a cat, he followed the shadow into the night. Tano moved quietly through the dark streets, his heart pounding. The shadowy figure ahead leaped from one rooftop to another, moving fast like a hunting leopard. Tano knew one thing. Whoever this was, they were heading toward the palace. The air was cool and the city was silent, except for the distant sound of waves from the river. Tano stepped carefully, using the narrow alleys to stay hidden. He had spent his childhood playing in these streets, and now that knowledge was keeping him safe. The shadowy figure suddenly stopped on top of a building near the palace walls. Tano crouched behind a water barrel, watching. Then something unexpected happened. From the darkness, two more figures appeared, dressed in dark robes. One of them whispered, "Did you bring it?" The first shadowy figure nodded and held up a small scroll. The same one Tano had seen earlier. Tano's chest tightened. This was big. "Waziri Kona will be pleased," one of the men whispered. The plan is moving forward. The guards at the west gate are already paid off. Tano's mind raced. Waziri Kona was behind this. He was planning to take the throne. Tano knew he had to get away and tell someone. But as he slowly stepped back, crack, his foot snapped a dry twig. The three men froze. Who's there? One of them growled, drawing a short sword. Tano's stomach twisted. He had to run. Now, without thinking, Tano turned and sprinted down the alley. After him! A voice roared. Footsteps thundered behind him. Tano ran as fast as he could, dodging through narrow streets, jumping over baskets and broken carts. His chest burned, but he didn't stop. He turned a corner. Dead end. Got you now, one of the men sneered, blocking the exit. Tano's eyes darted around. He had only one option. He grabbed a loose wooden plank from the wall and swung it hard at the man's legs. The man yelped and fell. Tano dashed past him, leaping over a pile of sacks. He had to escape. Just as he reached an open street, a hand grabbed his wrist. Tano almost screamed, but a voice hissed, "Quiet! Come with me." Before he could argue, he was pulled into a small house. The door shut behind him. Tano turned to see a girl, about his age, with sharp eyes and quick hands. "You're lucky I was watching," she whispered. "Who are you?" Tano took a deep breath. "I'll tell you everything," he said. "But first, who are you?" The girl smirked. "Call me Nia," she said. "And it looks like you just made a very dangerous enemy." Tano stared at Nia, trying to catch his breath. His heart was still racing from the chase. "Who are you?" he asked again, this time more carefully. Nia leaned against the wooden wall, arms crossed. "I should be asking you that. You're the one running like a gazelle with lions on your heels." Tano wiped the sweat from his forehead. "I don't have time for games. I saw something dangerous tonight. If I don't warn the right people, something bad will happen." Nia's eyes narrowed. "Let me guess. Waziri Kona?" Tano froze. "How do you know that name?" Nia smirked. "I make it my job to know things. Now tell me, what did you see?" Tano hesitated. He didn't know if he could trust her, but he also knew he had no choice. He took a deep breath and told her everything. The mysterious scroll, the men talking about the bribe palace guards, and how they mentioned Waziri Kona's plan. When he finished, Nia was quiet. Then she sighed. "It's worse than I thought," she muttered. Tano frowned. "What do you mean?" Nia walked to a small wooden chest in the corner and pulled out a rolled piece of parchment. She handed it to Tano. "Read this." Tano unrolled the parchment. His eyes widened. It was a map of the palace, and several guard stations were marked with red ink. Next to them, there were small symbols. "This," Tano whispered, "this is a plan for an attack." Nia nodded. "I stole it from one of Waziri Kona's men 2 nights ago. I've been trying to figure out his full plan, but now it's clear. He's paying off guards to let his men inside the palace walls." Tano felt a chill run down his spine. "That means the king is in danger." Nia's face was serious. "Not just the king. If Waziri Kona takes power, the whole city will suffer." Tano clenched his fists. "Then we have to stop him." Nia raised an eyebrow. "We?" Tano nodded firmly. "You know things. I know the city. We have to work together." Nia studied him for a moment. Then she grinned. "All right, Gazelle Boy. Let's stop a traitor." Tano and Nia have uncovered a dangerous plan. But can they stop Waziri Kona before it's too late? The palace is in danger, and time is running out. What will happen next? Find out in part 2. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification.